a full scholarship, and then I transferred back to the University of Alabama, where I played football and ran track there as well. Uh, I was blessed to be there during probably one of the prime times of the dynasty from 2014 to 2017. So I had the privilege of playing with some really good athletes. Played with Jalen, played with Tua, played with Matt Jones. Got to play with Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith. So it was a really really cool learning experience. But it also showed me and continues to show me as time goes on how, man, the real impact and the real lessons that you're being taught during that time period isn't about football. And just recognizing that Coach Saban really wasn't concerned with how we did on the football field. Of course, we're all hyper competitive. So if the objective is winning a football game, then that's what we're going to apply the process to. But you just really learned that the process isn't everything, right? There's a process for what you guys are doing with the podcast, right? And if you don't follow that process and you don't get the results that you want, and a lot of people focus too much on the results and not the process in and of itself. I met with a coach down at Bibb County yesterday, Coach G, and he was telling me about how they have the standard. And he was like, man, I have kids that call me to this day that haven't played in 5 or 10 years, and they're like, man, the standard, coach, the standard. And so recognizing that whether it's Coach Saban, it's Coach G, any coach around the country, and any mentor around the country, we all have the opportunity to use ball to bring people closer to Christ more than anything, and to teach them that their value isn't found in wins and losses, but in how they serve other people and how they live their lives.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you being here. Before our panelists bounce out, do you guys want to shoot Donnie a quick question? I'll open the floor for you guys, man. Thanks, Donnie. I appreciate you as well. Coach Sean, go ahead, man.
For me, it's not even really a question, man. I just want to say I personally love what Kyle does, what you do. I take that personally, man, because you're looking at a kid who was a troubled kid, growing up right here in this state, moving to Chicago with my father, being up there on the South Side for 7 years, man, seeing my father go to prison, seeing my friends die, seeing people I grew up with all my life fall by the wayside who were much more talented than me in football, and having the opportunity to come back, move back with my mother here in Alabama and get a football scholarship to Alabama A&M University, HBCU here. You know, I personally want to say thank you for mentoring these kids, for showing these kids there's other things out there other than your environment. Even when a kid make a mistake, showing them kids, man, that it's other things, man. And it's a greater higher power calling to outside of football. So if don't nobody tell you, I want to thank people like you guys for doing this, man, because people like me, there's a lot of kids out there like I was, bro. And all of them are not bad kids. They're not bad kids, man. So thank you. That's straight from Coach Sean. I want to say thank you and continue to do the works that you do.
Sir, appreciate you, Coach. Thank you.
Ty, Merrill, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'd like to echo, and I've done this before, and I think it's one of the things where I'd like to echo a lot of what Coach Sean said. Where I came from, Gainesville, Texas, right? Last Texas town before you get to Oklahoma on the Red River. And it's not a bad place, but it's just very low income. And, it's one of those places where what drew me in from the legal field to this is hope. The legal field, I was in a personal injury law firm. There's not a lot of hope in that environment, but I saw 2 of my best friends get football scholarships and what it did for the town. And I've always shared, and you're probably familiar, that movie Coach Carter. What is your deepest fear? Your deepest fear is not that you are powerless. Your deepest fear is that you are powerful beyond all measure. It's not our light that frightens, or it's not the darkness that frightens us. It's our light. And whenever we find that light, we give people the ability to find their light, because we were all meant to shine as children do. And I think for someone like yourself, that's even more pertinent, because football is temporary. Football is an amazing thing. It brings us all together. It's why we're all sitting here today, speaking to each other. And so that's power in and of itself. But what you do transcends football. It allows these young men to find that light, just as you found your light. And when you found yours, whether you realize it or not, sir, you have given other people the power to change their life just by being you. And so I truly want to thank you for what you do in the community, what you do for these young men, because it's going to be a situation where you might not ever understand the impact you have had on these people, because it's tough to eloquate what an amazing job you have been able to do. And I can't thank you enough for that.
100%.
That's a fact.
Merrill?
Yeah, man. Like I can't tell you how much just what you're doing and how much I relate from a standpoint, even from different spectrums, right? I also played college football. Now I didn't go to Alabama. I went to University of Washington. So there's the connection there a little bit with DeBoer and maybe the backside of Saban, as you guys know. I've talked about that. But man, Donnie, I tell you, I follow a little bit of your stuff too, to be honest with you. I've jumped in and looked. Because I jumped into mentorship too. For those who don't know, I actually am going to share something I've never shared on this show. And that's the fact that I was actually, before I got into this, I was a police officer. I was in law enforcement. I haven't shared that just because at the same time, there's always been different takes and that's something kind of personal. But I had a unique opportunity to do a lot of things in law enforcement and to touch a lot of lives in a positive way. I'm a very positive person, and there's a lot of good things. And I went into some specialties within law enforcement. And so I've got to see both ends, right? Because growing up, interesting enough, I grew up in a law enforcement family. What they say about that sometimes, right? When you have a dad of authority, especially authority figure, you can tend to swing a different way at times because we as young men can be a little rebellious. I'll tell you what. And I was there too. Same thing. Sports definitely helped me. I'll tell you, it helped me get in the right path. But getting out of sports is a whole nother thing. And speaking from the standpoint of football, football ends. But what do you take away from sports? What do you take away from football? And Donnie, that's just pretty awesome. And I have to ask, how do guys and other people within the community, and I'm sure Kyle will jump into this and you guys will jump into it, but how do they get involved in what are some things they can do to help out in the direction, helping the youth and those around them continue to just get better in life?
For sure. Man, so there's kind of a two-pronged approach that we have with that. So obviously, we work with a lot of athletes. Not all athletes are going to make it to the NFL. If they do, that's awesome. Not all athletes are going to make it to the NBA, the MLB. If they do, that's a blessing. But the reality is that even if you make it, it doesn't last that long. And so our goal is about just trying to create better men at the end of the day and using sport as a vehicle to do that. One of the things that I did learn over the last few years is that you can't cater everything to sports, because a lot of times the kids that have that idle time that are getting in trouble, they're not on athletics teams. They're not playing for their high school team or their middle school team. And so really try to focus on finding ways to meet kids where they're at, right? So we have partnerships with Stars Academy up here in Tuscaloosa, which is the alternative school. So if a kid is expelled from his public school, he's sent to the alternative school. And they might have 30 days there, 60 days, or 90 days. We work with Miss Tesney Davis over there. And so anybody that would like to be a part of that mentorship program, you can DM us at the Lab USA. You can DM us at the Ivy Foundation as well, and we'll get you all the information for that. We're winding down the spring mentorship program. We're going to be kicking back off with it during the summer. And so we always need good people, man. I think that's the beautiful thing about it. It's each one teach one. And ironically, man, my devotional is about making disciples of men today, right? And I think that's how we start that. And man, you hit it on the nail earlier, man. Like, I think your previous experiences in law enforcement, it helps significantly. I have a great relationship with the chief of police here. And they talk to us about that all the time. Like, how do we improve community relations with local law enforcement? We've got a program at Stars Academy called the Positive Ticketing System, where essentially if a local resource officer sees a kid doing something positive at the school, he can write them a citation, write them a ticket, but he's able to redeem that at like a Bolero or at the movie theaters or at a restaurant. So,
dude, love that.
Come on. Yes, sir. God is good.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So yeah, that's why I was really excited. I mean, and Donnie and I have crossed paths a couple times, so wanted to kind of set this interview up to talk about a couple things about pillars of life. I'm really big into mentorship, and you guys know how my group, my men's group, has helped me in terms of maturity, being a better father, and just kind of wanted to hit on that and kind of tie it into football and kind of where we're at now since we're in May, and I kind of wanted just to highlight Donnie because he's just a hell of a dude, and we need to, make sure that we highlight more people like you, Donnie, because you have such a direct impact to the youth who are so important to the future of, our city, our state, our country. So, man, I can't wait to wrap with you, man. Hey, Merrill, Coach Sean, Ty, I appreciate you guys being on today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Friday. As news breaks, we'll keep you posted on Bama Football on YouTube. Follow Ty Hayes, Around the Table Sports. He's got his YouTube channel. Coach Sean's got his own YouTube channel that is flying off the ground right now. Being mentored by Ty. And Coach Merrill is with us right here on Bama Football on YouTube. So, we got Merrill back. So appreciate you guys kicking it off on Friday, and I'll catch up with you guys soon.
Appreciate it, Kyle. And thank you very much, Donnie, for the time.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, 100%, man. Donnie, love to hook up with you too after this, man. Me and you should chat.
Sure.
Yep.
All right, brother. All right, cool.
All right, fellas.
Appreciate you guys.
Yep. Take it easy, fellas. All right, man. Yeah, good stuff. Those guys are great, man. I mean, as you can see, that's why I like to have them on the forefront here. Good people, man. And welcome in Donnie Lee Jr. I appreciate it. Before we get going, Donnie, for people who want to contribute and kind of be a part of the cause that you have, like, can you just put your email or what's the best way to like get in contact with you that I could put inside the comment box?
Yes, sir. If they DM us at the Lab USA on Instagram, or DM us at the Ivy Foundation on Instagram as well, and just express interest in joining the mentor program. We can get all the information sent to them over from there. It'll be solid. From an email perspective, for those that aren't on Instagram, it's drlee at thelabusa.org.
.org. All right, gotcha.
Yes, sir.
All right, Dr. Lee at the Lab USA. Okay, cool. I'll put that up as well. Appreciate you. All right, man. Let's chop it up, man. I appreciate you being here. Feel Good Friday. Happy to that you're on the show. So I want to talk about a couple other things: the mentorship, the fatherhood, and how that impacts us. But you've been here and like you mentioned, you were during the peak of the dynasty with Coach Saban. How much did Saban's overall message to you guys inside the locker room kind of carry over much more than football and kind of the trajectory that it set you on? Because we know that Coach Saban, greatest football coach to ever live, and even what he's doing now, I love it because he's still giving back. He still cares about college football. There's not a day where he doesn't have a meeting about NIL and kind of the parameters about college football. But how much of his message is kind of behind the scenes? What can you share with us in terms of how he coached you guys up on the field, how he coached you guys up in the locker room? What can you share with us about your experience with Coach Saban, and how did he help mold you to where you are today?
For sure. Well, man, I think it's like I said earlier, I'm a military dependent, and so growing up, my parents were always very disciplined and very methodical in terms of things that we did. And so you can always recognize when someone has a military influence, if you will, and that process was very militant, to say the least. But you trusted it. I know it gets to a point of redundancy, being told, "Hey, trust the process." But you recognize very quickly that the process works. And at that age, from you got guys from 18 to 22 years old in the locker room. With the COVID year, you got guys as old as 24 now. But I mean, you just see it, like when you're going out there and you go through fall camp your first year, and it's like, man, this is terrible, this sucks, and you don't really know if it's worth it, but you're just being reminded constantly to trust the process, discipline, toughness, effort, commitment, those pillars that Coach Cochran and Coach Saban really instilled in us. I think you really recognize it after you leave the university. While you're in the moment, it's just chopping wood and carrying water and beating the brakes off of people on Saturdays. You're not watching any of the media. That's one of the biggest things that none of us watched ESPN. None of us watched. We didn't read we didn't look at any polls. Definitely not preseason polls. We just didn't care, man. Like I remember I was at practice one day, and how sometimes they'll have games on a Thursday to start the season off.
Yeah.
Week 0, as they call it. So I think LSU had played like Florida State or something. And I was so excited to watch the game. I was like, man, it's finally football season. That means camp is almost done. Like it's cool to see somebody else playing on TV. I'm ready to get at it. And I asked Ryan Anderson, who to me is somebody who truly embodies the process and the transition from athlete to professional, because he's doing an amazing job as an entrepreneur with 22 builds. But I asked Ryan Anderson, I said, Ryan, did you watch the game last night? And he just kind of looked at me. I said, "You watched the LSU game last night?" And he said, "I don't give a crap about anything but this." He said, if it's not somebody that's inside of this facility, I ain't watching it. He said, I don't want to watch any of the above. And then obviously, he came out during bowl season and was like, because they're opting out of the game because they're playing in the Popeyes Bowl. Nobody wants to play in the Popeyes Bowl. But just that approach to, each day you've got to chop wood and carry water, and recognizing that as a business owner now that, if you wake up any day and you don't chop wood, you don't carry water, that your opponents are, and that they'll realize the benefits of the process quicker and more efficiently than you will if you're not consistent with that.
When you were playing and when you were here during your time at Alabama, who was like the most athletically gifted like freak that you came across, where you're just like, look, not only is this dude working, but he just like, because some people just like have it, and that's just God's gift. But like, who are some freaks that just like, because you're at Alabama where iron sharpens iron, 5 stars aplenty, but some people still just stand out.
No, 100%. I'd say from a physical perspective, Crazy Tony by far. I think Tony Brown is probably the best athlete that I think everybody at Alabama would agree on that one. It was Tony Brown, just in terms of ability, vertical and longitudinal jumps. The guy was top 3 in the country as a hurdler. The way he took care of his body, his approach to the game, he was just a physical specimen. So yeah, I'd take Crazy Tony on that one, and you could kind of see reflections of it when he played ball.
I remember, I'll never forget. Everybody has a Crazy Tony story. I have a couple as well because, that was just kind of how polarizing he was. But I remember, like, what I'll always remember about him is straight alpha. Like, the dude would rip off his shirt, the most chiseled dude, like, in college football, and he would walk up the side, like, through the opposing team, like, who was practicing, right? So, like, didn't matter. Like, that was his field. And and then I remember him working out. Like, he was just a character in itself. Man, so as Coach Saban, transitioned, we all knew it was coming. Where were you when Coach Saban, announced the retirement? And, what were you thinking? We all knew it was coming in time. But what have like the last 120 days been since he retired, and what were your thoughts when he called when he said that he was out?
Man, it was crazy. I was at Thompson High School training. My phone was blowing up when I finally came back to it, and I seen somebody text me there like, "Man, Coach retired. Coach is done. Coach is done." And I mean, I don't think for anybody there was a lot of shock. The timing of it, obviously, you're kind of just like, dang, like, we all knew it was coming, like you said, but I guess to actually see it come to realization was insane. I was happy for Coach Saban more than anything. Him as a man, him as a father, him as a husband, because he's given the world so much as a coach already, and he's shown us what he can do as a coach. That I'm excited to see his transition now. And he's already doing an amazing job of it, whether it's, with Mercedes, he's opening up, or if he hasn't already opened up a Lamborghini dealership in Tennessee or Kentucky. Just seeing him apply the process to the next chapter of his life, because he's always talked to us about applying the process to the next chapter of ours, whether it was the NFL or whether it was life as a professional. And so, man, I'm happy for him. You look at guys like they're cut from that cloth, like your Tom Brady's. If you take it all the way back, your Julius Caesars, these guys that are just really, they have an unquenchable thirst to be conquerors. And so it's cool when you can see someone have that Thor moment at the top of the hill where they got all the Infinity Stones, and it's like, hey, I'm good to go, man. I can relax. So I'm happy for him to have that moment, and happy to see how Coach DeBoer handles the transition.
Patriot Life, one of our faithful followers here on The Undefeated. The Undefeated is the community. So, Donnie, if you have a question, if you can't remember something, just ask them. They got you covered. So, Patriot Life is locked in. He said, just followed your brother Locked In on the Instagram site. And then Corey is saying, you'll be hearing from me, fam. I'd love to join the program. Beautiful thing you're doing. Keep it up, man. So, we got a lot of support that we'll continue to send your way. Here with Donnie Lee Jr., founder of the Lab USA. We'll continue to keep his Instagram and email up on board board. Okay, so this new energy comes in. I mean, Coach Jalen DeBoer. There was, who was Greg Byrne going to hire? Goes with Coach Jalen DeBoer. Man, I've never seen a coach do more interviews than Coach Jalen DeBoer. You know, it seems he's a completely different person, clearly, from Coach Saban. That offense is electric. I mean, what are kind of some early, what have you had a chance to meet Coach Jalen DeBoer yet, Donnie?
Yes, sir. So I met him in passing one of the spring practices. And man, he seems to be a really, really good person. Seems to be a really nice person. Every player that I've talked to, the one reoccurring narrative is that he's just super nice.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the administration, when I went to practice, they were like, "Man, he's just super nice." Someone was telling me a story about how he went missing the other day for like an hour, 2 hours. And he came back and they're like, "Where have you been?" And he's going grocery shopping for himself. And that was just completely foreign to them. They're like, "No, the head coach at the University of Alabama can't just do that," which is ironic. I ran into Coach Oates at a little pizza shop here last year. When I seen him, I was like, "You're not going to be able to do this in probably about a year, right?" It's like you might want to enjoy it, but I'm excited to see it. When Coach Saban came in. There's a little apprehension with that as well after everything that's taking place in Miami and be the right guy. So I think that it's a longitudinal study. Getting into expectations and projections about what he's going to do is the same as a preseason poll. So being nice is perfectly fine until Saturday in the fall comes, and as long as you're winning games, the fans will support you, the community will support you. But the moment you do not, we all know how it gets down here.
Yeah, was it completely foreign to you when you walked out? Because I went to practice as well, and they had the music going. It's a completely different vibe. We're talking to assistant coaches and stuff. It's like this didn't happen. Was it completely foreign to you, or did it just seem kind of business as usual, despite kind of the turnover of coaches?
From a practice perspective, the schedule was identical. They still went out and got their reps. There's some like aesthetic differences, like they can wear long sleeves. And I know this stuff seems like so trivial, but like we beg to wear long sleeves at practice. And Coach Saban was just not having it. You see guys with their shirts untucked, and that's something that literally was a non-negotiable for Coach Saban. But man, I want to reiterate, I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Just because that's what we were used to, and just because that's what Coach Saban's process was, it doesn't mean that this new regimen, this new regime, if you will, isn't capable of winning and creating their own dynasty.
Yeah. Here with Donnie Lee, thelabusa.org. If you want to email him, find out more about how you can contribute to his cause, helping student athletes, mentorship, training. You send over 80 athletes, probably more than that, Division I scholarships. What about Jalen Milroe? I know you had a football camp. I think, man, this spring has seemed like 5 years because of all the things that have happened. He's a guy who emulates leadership, big on leadership. And when you were the quarterback at Alabama, you have to be the leader of the team. Look back to the previous leaders, Tua, Jalen, Mac, Bryce, all of those guys exemplified leadership in their own right. Jalen Milroe, biggest smile in the room. Love what he brings to the table. What do you think about Jalen Milroe on and off the field?
But I'll start with the most important one. That's off the field. He's amazing person, amazing individual. One of my good business associates, Jacob Bird, is hosted those camps with him, and I was able to be involved with his camp in Tuscaloosa and his camp out in Katy, Texas, in his hometown. And then one of the things that Jacob constantly brought up, man, he was like, Jalen stayed far beyond his contractual agreements. Like, he stayed far beyond his contractual obligations. He was supposed to be there maybe 2 to 3 hours and stayed 5 to 6 to ensure that every single kid got their item autographed. Just a great person, man. Just a great individual. Really understood the importance of equanimity last year and showed true servant leadership. We always talk about trying to be the hands and feet of Christ, but I think that he exemplified that more than a lot of people in the way that he handled that game down at USF. And so that's what it's about, man. Just recognizing that, everybody wants to do their 1 of 11. And sometimes your 1 of 11 might be helping the first team's 1 of 11, right? And he stepped up in that position and handled it well. But man, when I think of Millie, I think of just a hyper competitor. someone that, he just wants to win. Just absolutely wants to win. So I think we're in good hands from a leadership perspective in terms of just continuing that dynasty with Milroe right there.
Yeah, and so this is I wanted to ask you about this. I mean, because I know this is one of your biggest causes, the mentorship. And you don't have to go into too much detail, but like Tony Mitchell, right? And I want to ask, like, why is it important that we don't give up on the youth, even when, like, everybody knows what happened to Tony Mitchell off the field, right? Everybody. It was on YouTube. It had millions of views. But Coach Saban, gave him another chance, right? And kind of set him on the path. And I know he's in the transfer portal. I don't even know where he's going to go. But why is it important, no matter who you are, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, maybe not even playing football, why is it important that we don't give up on these people earlier in their lives and continue to provide their mentorship from your perspective?
For sure. Man, I think Coach Saban really answered it perfectly, probably like 2010, 2011, when he spoke about the individual that he coached at, was it Ohio State maybe? I can't think of what college he was coaching at the time, but the guy ended up playing receiver for the Carolina Panthers, and they wanted him to kick him off the team. I think he'd gotten in some trouble. He got arrested, and Coach Saban came out and essentially said, man, hey, if I kick him off the team, is he going to be better with this program or without this program? And so Coach Saban did what to many was the politically incorrect thing, which is one of the things I love about Coach Saban, is that he is completely indifferent to being politically correct or politically incorrect. He just wants to do the right thing. So I think that was huge. But just recognizing that for some people, that structure of football is a difference between life or death for them. And Urban Meyer, in the Untold documentary of Urban Meyer and the University of Florida, Urban talks about a kid that he kicked off the program, and a year later he overdosed and passed away. And the weight that Coach Urban Meyer carried with that. And so, I think it goes both ways. Coach Saban is very intelligent. He's very observant, and he understands subjectively, like, hey, is this a guy that's going to benefit more from me keeping him on the team and me giving him structure, or is this a guy that needs to have this ball taken away from him in an acute manner, and maybe that's what it is that's going to wake him up to allow him to be successful. So I think, man, even when Coach Saban kicks a kid off the team, whether it's myself, whether it's a guy like DJ Petway, you see how he gave Petway a second opportunity to come back and redefine himself at the university. Coach Saban's allowed me to come back to the university and be a mentor and work with a lot of the athletes. And so I think that, in terms of T. Mitch specifically, look how it's working out. No matter where he goes, he's still playing ball. He's not sitting in Alabaster depressed because he made a mistake at 17 years old. And we've all made mistakes at 17 years old. The only difference is our mistakes just didn't make it to ESPN the way his did. So I think it's important to just be mindful of the log in our own eyes at all times.
Patriot Life with the $20 super chat. We appreciate you, Patriot Life. Thank you for taking care of us right here on Bama Football on YouTube, and earlier Ephraim as well with the $100 super chat. We appreciate you guys, and thank you very much for supporting the YouTube channel. And please support Donnie Lee through his mission, which is the Lab USA, which you can follow on Instagram. We'll put up the links inside the comment box. What do you tell? I'll let you go here in a few minutes. I know we're just a little bit over, if you don't mind, Donnie. But I want to ask you, what are you telling players that come and talk to you about NIL, the transfer portal, maybe the transfer portal specifically? Because I think sometimes people might feel that the grass is always greener rather than staying kind of the course. And it really only takes 1 year, the college football level, to really set you apart and to maybe get you a long-term, a big deal with the NFL as opposed to like short-term NIL money. I don't know, there's a lot to discuss there. That might be a whole nother podcast for another time, but what are you telling your guys about NIL, transfer portal, and how that might impact them for better or worse?
For sure. Man, it's crazy because at this point I'm having the exact same conversation with the high school athletes about the transfer portal that I'm having with the college guys, because the transfer portal at this point is alive and well in the high school ranks as well. I think, man, every time I meet with a high school head coach, he's talking to me about his kids being poached away and about just the recruiting, whether it's in-state in Alabama or whether it's kids leaving and wanting to go to Georgia because NIL is legal in Georgia. And so I think, it's, we talked about in 2020, there's a new normal. You took the words out of my mouth, man, verbatim, when you talked about the grass being greener. So I never tell a kid where to transfer. I never tell a kid whether he should or should not hit the transfer portal. I just tell them that, I want to support you no matter what uniform color you're wearing. Just kind of take it from there. But the most important thing I let them know is if you do decide to transfer, it needs to be for something more than, oh, I'm not starting. Like, it needs to be something more than playing time, because a lot of time playing time is a reflection of the coach's lack of trust with you. And so if there's ways for you to fix that aspect, then let's stay where we're at. And so I always tell them the grass isn't green on the other side. It's green where you water it at. And a lot of times the grass is just greener because it's turf. And so you've got to be aware of the artificial grass out there. And then from a competitive perspective, man, I had college coaches that were reaching out to me. During spring ball, you have a bunch of mid-major coaches that watch the practices. And man, after every practice, coaches would recognize that I was running second team or getting some third team reps, and they seen the guys that I was competing with again, the Judys, the Calvins, the Devontae Smiths, the Jalen Waddles. And they're like, man, if you come to our school, you'll start immediately. Like, you don't have to worry about these guys. And in my mind, like, that was just so, for one, counterintuitive, and I mean, it's honestly disrespectful. I was like, I'm gonna run. Like, these same receivers are gonna be in the NFL. Like, if I can't find a way to get on the field right now, there's no point in me dodging it, going to a different university. And sometimes it works, right? Like with J-Mo, when he left Ohio State, that was probably a good fit with him coming to Alabama, because he wasn't going to get on the field, apparently. But you see the success he had when he got here, and now the success that he's having in Detroit. So I think it's subjective. But to answer the question, man, the grass isn't green on the other side. It's green where you water it at, and you got to be mindful of the turf at all times.
There was like this debate going on, like, I don't know, it was last year or something like that, about your top 5 wide receivers from Bama. Who, I mean, you competed with these guys. Do you have like a ranking? Like, who is like the top dog of them all? For me, it's Smitty. For me, look, it's Smitty for me. It took him just that 1 year. But I felt like his mindset, like, he had like the Mamba mentality, which not a lot of people have, but like, that guy had it. What about you?
No, Devontae Smith was an absolute dog. I was joking with TJ Simmons on Facebook, going back and forth the other day. Somebody posted, obviously, Smitty got his new contract. Congratulations to him on that one. Somebody posted a house that he had purchased. I think, like, New Jersey. It was like a $500,000 house, and people were talking about just how modest he was. And I put on there, I was like, little do y'all know, Smitty's about to sell this house now, downsize to an even smaller house. TJ was like, he's going to put on 100 acres in Louisiana and just get some horses so he doesn't have to talk to anybody. So Smitty is one of those guys that's like just complete stoic, like Marcus Aurelius level, man. He just wants to do his job, chop wood, carry water, doesn't want to hit the club, doesn't want to celebrate it. It's one of those, you never applaud a fish for swimming kind of guys. But I'd say my number one guy is definitely Amari Cooper. There's probably not anybody. Some of the really old heads are going to say Julio, and I think Julio is really talented. Don't get me wrong. And I grew up watching Julio, but Julio is a physical freak. Julio Jones is the best athlete to ever play at the University of Alabama. In my opinion, and in everybody else's opinion that's ever been inside of the facility. It's not really close. But in terms of wide receiver, the best route runner, the best hands, the ability to create separation, is Amari Cooper by far. And I think you have to put him at number 1 because Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, and a lot of those South Florida receivers, they are who they are because of watching Amari Cooper. So they're really reflections of Amari Cooper. So I take Coop 1. I take Smitty 2. I put Julio at 3. I put Calvin at 4. I apologize, Red, and I'm biased here. The guys that I played with. Last time I did this, I got bombarded. You didn't mention such and such. I was like, dog, I wasn't even live when they were playing. I'm not saying that they weren't great receivers. I just haven't seen it. And then I'd probably throw Waddle. I'd throw Waddle in there. He's my favorite receiver to watch. He's my favorite receiver to watch for sure.
Yeah, that's what's up. I appreciate it, man. Okay, last thing. I'm a father, man. I follow you on Instagram, and I post pictures of my kids. It's my kids and my workouts to inspire people to get moving, to be healthy. It's really important to me. And that my kids see that as well, right? Like me pushing myself, and I want them to push themselves in time. I don't want to live vicariously through them. I want them to shine at their own abilities. That's important for me. And I know, when I look at your Instagram, you're a proud father. I mean, it's the biggest blessing, and it's the, biggest responsibility that we have is to be a father to our children. How important is being a father to you, and how has that molded you as a man?
Man, it's everything to me. It's outside of being a son of God. It's the most important identity in my life, and I'm very thankful that at the end of the day, like your talent on the football field isn't your talent. It's something that God has given to you, and our position as fathers isn't something that we've earned or deserved. It's something that God has given to us. I think that the ability to create life is one of God's greatest powers, and He's given us that gift. We shouldn't use that lightly. Man, my daughter Dylan, she's my world. And for me, it's very important to show a lot of the kids that call them kids, and they're all men now. Every time I look up, they're getting older and they're having children of their own. But I used to take a lot of pride in, man, I want people to see the athletes that I've trained and know that I've trained them by the way that they compete. Like, I want them to know that I've worked with them by the way they carry themselves on and off the field. Ben Allen, you hit that on the nail. I want them to look at them and say, man, like, you can tell that they've been in the lab, that they understand the process, things of that nature. Coach Kerry Stevenson, that used to be at Alabama, we were at Tuscaloosa Academy watching a game one day, and he was like, Donnie, you can tell that these kids have worked with you and Johnny Dwight, another guy I played with at Bama, who worked with the linemen, because of how they were competing, and they were talking a little trash, in which he brought that aspect up too. He was like, that definitely came from y'all too. But man, I still had to say, when I see the guys that I started training in 2020 that have kids now, and the way that they're fathering their children, man, that means more to me than anything they could have ever done on the football field. Brylan Lanier, who was at Alabama, is starting at Mississippi State University as a DB. He's got his son Kazi, and they were at the spring game together, and just seeing that, man, and getting the guys to really understand that, man, there's nothing more important. And if we want to fix our society, it really starts with the fathers. It really starts with the men stepping it up. I'm not going to get into anything like Harrison Butker. I don't want to get canceled, but men, we definitely need to step it up and just take more responsibility. And fatherhood is the most important role we have in that.
Man, I love it, man. I'm a big fan of you, man. And I just want to tell you, man to man, I really respect you. I respect what you stand for. If you need any type of support, I'm going to talk to you offline about some other ideas that I have through my men's group, because we want to definitely continue to empower men, especially the youth. So I want a full court press, man coverage. And, continue to, help you in any shape or form. Please follow Donnie Lee, founder of the lab here in Tuscaloosa, a really important member of our community. And I really appreciate you jumping on, man, and being real and talking about a little bit of football, a little bit of life, and, the most important thing, fatherhood, man. So, you have a big supporting cast from us right here at Bama Football on YouTube. We love having you on, man. So anytime you want to come up, man, I'll hit you up, and maybe you jump on and, we can talk shop or whatever. But if there's anything else, just want to know that I'm here for you. I really appreciate you. And thank you so much, man, for joining us today.
Man, I appreciate you, my brother. Anytime, dog. Always love, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right. Donnie Lee Jr., man, I'll close it out, man. I'll close up the show, man. Appreciate you, Donnie.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, boss.
All right, man. All right. Roll Tide to you, man. I mean, there's individuals that are classy cats that, just are kind of like the standard. He's the standard, right, of being a man. And we want to support those type of people who are making impact on the community. And plus, he played with, some of the best wide receivers, a wide receiver himself. And his story is interesting, got kicked off the team, was brought back on by Coach Saban, and now you look at the difference he's making. And, sometimes we have to go back to hit rock bottom to be able to move forward in life. I mean, raise your hand if it's been easy for you to continue to, grow as an adult, right? There's different things and different challenges that you're always facing. But when you're moving in a positive light and especially making an impact on others, it's probably the most important thing, right, is service to others. So I love that message from Donnie Lee. Just did a killer job. Earlier today, we got a chance to watch the NCAA football trailer. We posted a little bit of that, the reaction with Coach Merrill, Coach Sean, and Ty. That's amazing. I can't wait to get on the sticks. Look, I don't play video games like I used to. I kind of always wondered in my life, like, when would I stop playing video games? Was when I got, when I had children and I had responsibilities and all this other stuff, which is fine. But I'm definitely going to get on the sticks for this one and, see what I can do. See how this old 40-year-old can play NCAA football. But it was amazing to see. And I'm really happy for the players that are in the game. And I'm glad that the players are now getting paid and they got all that stuff figured out. I feel like we're never going to have NCAA football again. So I'm glad to have that on kind of on the back burner. I guess the early release date is July 16th and July 19th is when we can get the game in play. So, yeah, I hope you guys had a really good Friday morning with Coach Sean, Merrill, and Ty. They do such a great job for us right here on Bama Football on YouTube, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being a supporter of our YouTube channel. Thank you, Efron, for your $100 today. Patriot Life taking care of us, and everybody inside the Undefeated. If you want to become a fan funder of our YouTube channel, just hit the hyperlink. It says join, and as low as $2.99 you can support the product. We really appreciate you guys being here and sticking with us as news happens right here on Bama Football on YouTube. My name is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. This is what I do for a full-time basis, and I'm really grateful that I'm able to do this on a professional level to contribute to you guys every single day right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Appreciate it. Southern Red, thanks for being here. William, Ben, Hacker Music, Corey, Patriot Life. Let's see who else we got here. Ben, CSN, Efron, of course, and everybody else inside the Undefeated. So I just want to wish you a fantastic Friday. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram for inspirational workout videos, Mr. Kyle Henderson, and of course follow Donnie Lee Jr., the Lab USA. But I appreciate you very much for being a member of Bama Football on YouTube. I wish you the best Friday. If news happens, got you covered right here at Bama Football on YouTube. From beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, have a nice Friday, and I'll catch up with you soon right here on Bama Football on YouTube.